Hi, welcome to Spiritual Connection. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm a transformation coach, I'm an energy healer, I'm a shamanic practitioner, and I'm the spiritual head of the new Transformation Center CT in Westport, Connecticut. So at the center, we offer a variety of workshops, trainings. We have satsang once a month, so there's a lot going on. So please check it out at transformationcenterct.com. You know, so all are welcome to come. I mean, no matter where you are in your spiritual journey, especially if you're just at the beginning. You know, there's so much to learn and experience. So now our show. The Spiritual Connection show is all about connection. You know, you're here to learn from my guest. We're going to learn from each other, and that way you can learn more about yourself. So that's really the point here. So thanks for joining us, and we're going to get started. So my guest tonight is Betsy Cameron. Welcome to the show, Betsy.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you. So I'm going to say a little bit about you so our audience can get to know you, because they don't know you. So Betsy is a designer of interiors, both residential and commercial. She's a workshop facilitator and perpetual student. That's awesome. Wow, you're busy too, right? Yeah, so awesome. So what I really like to start with a question for all my guests is, just tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey thus far.
Sure.
You know, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah. Well, in thinking about it, I saw the thread a little bit as a place of where my journey sort of began as a doing, and then it turned a pivotal corner and it became an undoing.
Okay.
And now it feels like a becoming.
Oh, wow.
So it's really been kind of a thread and more of, and I'm at a place now where it feels more of kind of weaving it into my life, sort of how do I pull the thread through of spirituality? How do I weave it into my work, into my life, into my relationships? Yeah. And I think a lot of that definitely began, I was raised going in the Episcopal Church, and we went to church every Sunday, and we were very active in that community. I can remember running around the church basement while we made nuts for some fundraiser, and just kind of contributed on many levels. And then I went to a boarding school, and it was non-denominational. And I loved the place of coming together in community. We would stop. I loved the pause. We were there 3 to 4 times a week, but it was really just a sharing in a space where we could come together again in community. We'd sing, there'd be a sharing of story, and then we'd be back off to our busy day. So when I emerged from that and went back to more of a traditional church setting per se, I sort of felt a shift in myself, and really more of a looking towards more of kind of the human aspect of it. How do I be more of an embodiment of it, more of a kind of the practical day-to-day spirituality? And I really went on a kind of a seeking quest for, well, what does that look like? What does that feel like? And eventually, in my early 30s, I went through a very pivotal time in my life. My mother was diagnosed with cancer, and eventually passed very, very quickly, and that really that was a major seismic shift in my life and the life of my family. And I remember saying to my husband at the time, I feel like I'm walking into a fire, and I know I'm going to come out on the other side, but I have no idea what I'm going to look like. It was just a profound awareness of that. Yeah. And then kind of quickly snowballing after that, I had my second child. I was trying to start a business and moving through all that, and then my marriage was unraveling. And I turned to a space that had always been incredibly grounding to me in the past. When my family lived overseas, we moved a great number of times, and I would always ground in by dealing with my room. If my room was set up and my little haven was there, Any chaos could be going on around me, but I had that space. I had that space that was sacred to me, that I held. It had all my belongings, that felt like home to me. So as all of this was happening in present time, as I was older, I went crazy in my space. I was like, I was a force of nature. I was, hand sanding floors. I was stenciling. I was repainting walls. I was moving furniture. I was doing so much to try and control another set of change that was happening.
That's what the word occurred to me, control.
It was very much a control. It was very much a control. And I actually had a very remarkable moment. I was out in the garden, and there was all this overgrowth in a space, and it needed tending. And I went and I was ripping out in handfuls, and then I had this profound moment of looking at this very tender undergrowth. It was kind of pale green, but trying to persevere and come up. And it really was just sort of this, just wham of mirror in my life of wow, change is happening, transitions are coming, growth will continue, and I can either do nothing at this time and it'll limp along and it'll come regardless, or I can tend and I can nurture and I can allow it to thrive. I can do the necessary weeding. So needless to say, I moved through a divorce, and that set me on really a very profound path of self-growth and self-awareness. And I have explored many, many spaces, and I just was a sponge for a long period of time, and any podcast and speaker and book and anything I could really get my hands on, I just consumed. Then I was introduced to the work of Master Diane Vimal, and that was a really pivotal moment. It was a particular course called I and I, which really talks about moving beyond influence and really the layers that we get kind of piled up on top of us over time, and helping you kind of wipe the smudge off the mirror so you can see yourself more clearly. And it was profound, to say the least, and I realized how much weight I was placing on the voices and the influence outside myself versus really trying to twist and turn inward and really tune into that much quieter voice of self, and really kind of hone my intuition and move into kind of a more grounded space and trust of myself. And that's really been,
So that allowed you to do that, and really.
It really did. It crystallized, right? It wiped, it lifted a veil. I think I was trying to get there in some ways, but I didn't quite have the tools or the language or the sight for it. And then when literally in a weekend saw this, I went, it was a really I literally had a feeling of kind of shedding, of wanting to peel off layers. It was really very visceral. It was a very visceral response.
Well, it's amazing how things come to us when we're ready for them too.
Yes.
Because it may not have had the same impact if you weren't ready.
Absolutely, I believe it 1,000%. That's shown itself to me several times in my life, where I wouldn't have had the heart or the hearing for it.
I would have recognized it at the time. Can you say the name of that again? Because I don't know if our audience is familiar with what you're talking about.
So the name of the course,
or the name of the person.
Oh, the name of the person. So Master Diane Vimal, and he is a master. He's in Malaysia, and he is a very prolific teacher, and has been for about 23, 24 years, been putting down teachings and sharing them globally. And I've been a grateful student for the past 6 years, and am now having the opportunity to help bring his teachings to this area, which I'm really so grateful for, to be able to share it, and for whoever is open to and wanting to participate.
So how does someone access this if they wanted to participate in your offerings?
So absolutely can reach out to me via SEVA Interiors is absolutely fine. That will get to me. But dvashram.com is his website. And then following me on Facebook will also get you there, because I would do listings of when we have meditation groups, which I'm doing twice a month.
Yes, and I actually had the pleasure to attend one last month, I believe.
Yes.
And I'm planning on doing the next one as well.
Yeah, we have one coming up this next Tuesday. It's a mastery meditation and quite amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, good. Well, I hope you'll continue that because, by the time this show airs, who knows what the date will be.
Yes.
But they can connect with you on Facebook.
Absolutely, yes.
So Betsy Cameron on Facebook.
Betsy Cameron on Facebook. Yes,
yeah, probably
absolutely.
the easiest way to do it.
Yes.
The easiest thing to remember anyway. Or your website, either one.
Yes, exactly.
That's great. So after you came upon that, did anything else in your life change?
Absolutely.
Besides your interior?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things profoundly, so I had, as I mentioned, started my business in interiors through the grace of actually my lovely stepmother. She came with a background in design when she joined our family, and she brought her teachings and her learnings, and we went into partnership together. It was such an easy. That's when you know something is so divine. We just slid right into that, and she just said, "Go, do," and just gave me the permission to go out and explore it, and I loved it. I would say though, after this big movement and all of the things I learned, and then when I tried to move back into traditional interior design. It was lacking for me. There was something missing. And when I was starting to feel that myself, what I was starting to hear from my clients who had prior interior design experience working with other designers was there was something lacking in the designs that they put together. Something was off. And what I came to was that they were missing the feel. That they were going for a look, but they were not connecting to their own vision and space. They too were putting more stock in the designer's opinion or a friend's opinion or what they'd seen on HGTV.
What's trendy.
Rather than really going to and connecting to what was their emotional connection to and their association with home. So I delved into, I figured if this was in my head and rattling around, it must exist somewhere, something like this. And I moved into something called design psychology. And it was like all of these fireworks going off as I'm reading through, saying, yes, that's it. That's exactly what I've been talking about. So, and coming from an energetic background as well, with Reiki, I did delve into feng shui because I was very curious about, okay, that there's a flow, there's a feel, there's an energy that a space will hold. So yes, a lot of it shifted, and it took me a number of years actually to kind of start to be able to communicate that. What does this look like? What does it feel like? I could see it and I could understand, but how am I going to share this with people? How am I going to educate them? How am I going to get them to understand?
How does it translate into what a practical?
And why would I need it? I don't know. Is it therapy? Is it? It's a little bit of
for
both.
The client?
For the client. Yeah.
That's a good point.
What is it? What is it? So it's been a process.
Be new
it's
to
definitely
most
new. It's definitely new. So I do feel like it is in that stage where education is really important. And so being able for people to perceive their homes as a lens and that space of as within, so without. So when there's something going on within me, oftentimes it's going to manifest in my space. So if I can kind of take that objective witness and give a look around objectively, it's really quite fascinating, the areas and the pockets and the little spaces. Why do you ignore that room? What's going on with the pile on the kitchen counter? And those little spaces, that closet you just really are not going to open. What's going on there? And then how do I feel about those spaces, which is typically that kind of constricted space. And when we live in that constricted space, we're not really open and rested and feeling supported by our space. Or
doing what we want to do, being productive or being
focused,
helping other people,
absolutely,
or whatever our goals are.
Oh yeah, our spaces have profound effects. We're on essentially a feedback loop. So whether you're consciously or unconsciously, you're taking in your surroundings constantly. So if that doesn't feel good to you, you are being negatively impacted on a day-to-day basis by your space.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So I love the idea of kind of that the self-space bond and really connecting people to their places where they take ownership of it and help kind of bring their vision, animate their vision of what home really feels like to them.
Yeah. So what is the process? How do you start with a client? First you have to educate them or?
I go a little bit more softly. I mean, yes, hopefully through, if they've connected me through my website or I'm on Instagram, and I do a lot of kind of education there as well.
Yeah, so they already know a little bit about
so they're
what
kind
you
of,
do.
they're attracted to it on some level. They may not know why. And oftentimes I find in the, the listening time that we have together, so we have a free consultation and we come and we have an hour and they just walk me through their home and they talk. And they'll tell me about their likes and their dislikes, what's working, what's not working. And oftentimes we go on that discovery process. It starts to show itself about maybe the areas of concern or what else might be going on in their life. And then we can address that really through the home and how it's set up. But until you declutter all of that, pull all that away, kind of get back to that blank space, whatever you add is only going to enhance the issue. Does that make sense? So if we just come in and try and do what I was doing in years past, was just kind of Band-Aid and cover up and decorate around the problem, it's only going to, it only enhances what's going on. So if we can kind of pare back, look at the obstacles, look at things that are bothering us, remove those, then when we bring in, then it's hopefully less than we would have, you might have done before because you'd be working so hard to cover up. We can actually end up bringing in less, but it's more intentional.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you recommend, literally removing some pieces of furniture, for example?
Yeah,
clutter, obviously.
Definitely clutter. Clutter is definitely the first stage.
Yeah.
And in doing that, and I'm looking into other tools and ways of helping people let go of things because there's such a deep attachment to stuff. And so I'm actually now dabbling with how essential oils can play into that and different things, just different tools to kind of loosen people up to the idea of I'm ready to let go, and or finding responsible outlets for things such as whether it's going on to a charitable organization or it's going on, so I'm looking for partnerships there as well that people could feel good about releasing their things when they know that it's going someplace that's useful and helpful.
Absolutely. This is perfect. I could be one of your clients because I'm I have all of this furniture that belonged to two grandmothers.
Yes.
And so you tell yourself that you have this sentimental attachment, has sentimental value, so how could you possibly give up this wonderful chair?
Yes.
And it's so interesting because I'm redoing my living room because of the spiritual center that we started in my home. Yeah. So I'm decluttering, taking stuff out and making room for people to be there.
Yes.
And so I took this one chair out in particular and I moved it to another room. I didn't even miss it. It's like, now it's in this other room. I'm like, okay, that's out of here.
Right, now you're late.
So maybe it's like a stage thing.
Yeah.
Have you found that? Or if you move it somewhere else, it's easier?
Yes, so that's also one of the, I call it home shopping, which I love. So once we kind of declutter the space and we pare it down and also just remember what drew you to the space in the first place, right? When you kind of take it back down to the bones of the space, maybe you're going to notice again the floors or the way the light comes in the room, or I love the moldings, or whatever it was that drew you in the first place before it got laden with things. So once we kind of clear that away, all of a sudden it might give new life to a piece that was kind of buried or hidden, or because there was so much else going on in the room and my eye didn't know where to land, I miss it, completely, I overlook it, but wow, putting it in this other place of prominence, and or, as you said, once I've moved it from the place it was sort of anchored in or holding space, then I'm kind of over it. So it's really interesting to see when we just shift things around.
So interesting. I hadn't thought of that. So it really it could be an energetic thing, because if you're loosening that energy, you're shifting it by moving it to another part of the house.
Yeah. Well, and also it's allowing. I love the intuitive part of design, and actually really coming in and being able to sit with and listen to a space itself. And asking it, what does it want to become, right? What does it want to be? So you're trying to transition it to a space with a different purpose, right? Yeah. It's there to hold others. It's not to hold space for, this one piece or whatever. So in doing that, it's kind of lost its significance, right? Because the purpose has shifted. So I feel like it's very important, again, in intentional design, that everything have, a form and a function, so that it's purposeful. It's not just a pretty placeholder. It's not just sitting there and looking nice and nobody sits in it and we walk by and it just has these emotional attachments.
Right, and that's exactly what this chair was, because it wasn't comfortable.
Right, right.
It looked great.
Yes, yes.
But it had no purpose.
Right, so you've evolved, right? So there's a place where you've moved and you've evolved, and so what the purpose that it served or the place that it held, and it could now go on and service, it could be the prize possession of some other person, so it gives it new life. And there's so many talented people to refurbish things. I mean, it could really be tremendous and go on and take a whole new story, you know?
Yeah,
so
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to release things, to another person and let your space and you evolve,
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that's not the only chair either.
Right.
There's several more.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
That I could do that with. So, this is really
it's
great.
fun. Yeah, I mean, I love the Marie Kondo. Does it bring you joy? I think that's such a wonderful, tangible thing. And I hear more and more people say it just doesn't bring me joy. So, but that's a wonderful emotion that she's attached, and connected to. And I love how people are relating to that, and there's so much movement in that. I do feel like we have to come up with responsible ways of releasing, where are these things going, and making sure that they go someplace responsibly. So that's a lovely part of the loop that I'm trying to play with as well and figure out.
That's great.
So we'll stay tuned on all of that.
You can fill me in on that.
I know.
No, it is important. Like
it's
you said,
really
you don't
important.
want to just send it to the.
And there's so many.
You could send it to Goodwill, but probably someone would end up with it that cared for it.
I think so. Yes. So I think places where it's consciously being appreciated and brought in, and there's an end user who would be really grateful.
Yeah, I mean that's really all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like old electronics where you could care less where they end up because they just go to the dump or somewhere.
I know, which again, for us to really be so much more conscious about, what we're consuming and what we're bringing in, and
it's not easy to do the responsible recycling.
Yes.
It's I'm learning the hard way. It's difficult, especially with technology.
Absolutely.
And old, like large television, the old-fashioned kind. Nobody wants them, and there's nothing to do with them.
No, and even a lot of the places where you donate, they don't want it either because it sits. So yes, coming up with some fabulous solutions. Would be great. So if anyone's out there wanting to collaborate, let's bring it. Let's do that.
Yeah, I found there's these local groups that you can be part of where you can put things that you don't want and people say they want them.
Yes.
I forget the name of them, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And
I think Buy Nothing is one of the national ones. Yeah.
And a lot of times you can give away stuff. And a friend of mine was telling me she had one of these old TVs. It was big, but she had a really nice cabinet that it was in. I mean, it was kind of an antique, but not so antique that you wouldn't have it in your house.
Right.
And it looked really nice. And so she put that on and said, come get it. And so a lot of people wanted it. But she said, but you have to take the TV with it.
And by the way, there's a TV in here. Yeah.
And some people said no, but some person actually came and got it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd have to pay someone to haul it away.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good to know. Well, I definitely want you to come and help me with my new transformation center.
I would really love it. One of the things I'm really passionate about is we have such a deep emotional connection to beauty, and it inspires creativity and connection, and we're all craving all of those things. And so creating spaces for people to gather that inspire. I'm also really passionate about whether it's educational spaces, hospice, any place that are holding people in tremendous transformation, and really in pivotal times. They need to be fabulous, just really soothing, quiet, just very grounding and comforting spaces.
Yeah, and you get the feeling that not a lot of thought has gone into that up until now.
Up until now. I recently was actually in Stanford Hospital and was incredibly impressed with the space there. They've done a beautiful job, and I'm just super grateful and hoping that more and more spaces will start following suit, because that really changes the whole experience. Awesome. Yeah.
So the name of your company that you started is SEVA Interiors.
SEVA Interiors.
What's the significance of SEVA as a name
So
for it?
SEVA struck me as it's a Sanskrit word for any people who are yogis and in this practice. It really is essentially selfless service. It's about being of service with really no objective of personal gain. It's really about the other and lifting up. At its essence, it's also about uplifting those around you. Yeah. So between the two, in part because my style of design, it's not about me, which often frustrates people because they want your input and they want you to do it. And well, what's your style? I said, well, my style is as much to try and pull your style out and then help you create your vision. So I like to work alongside of the person, so that when I leave, you feel at home. It's not me. It's not, oh, this is Betsy Cameron's style. I have my own style. This is your style. This is your home. So it felt very synergistically, and also again with my spiritual path and where I was, it was keeping me grounded in. For me, design is a lifestyle, and it's not an indulgence. It's really an act of self-care. It's being able to create havens and sacred spaces where we can unwind and reboot and recharge, particularly in a very demanding world.
And thrive.
It's really kind of a non-negotiable at this point. So when I can come at it from kind of the healing arts and kind of stay grounded there, then what I bring to a space is really about balance, beauty, harmony, flow. And yes, we get lovely pillows, but it's really not coming from that direction. I'm trying to spin it so that we come from a different perspective. So that helps me stay grounded in that, remembering where I'm coming from.
That's great. I mean, it's fascinating to me because I'd never really thought about it, honestly.
Right.
I don't know if many people have.
I think it does take people a little bit like, but what I love, and in my learning when I've gone out and I've, as I said, I absorbed a lot, the things that really stuck with me the most were not when I was having to learn a whole new language or a whole new way of being, but when it just felt a little bit of a jog to the left, like, it's just opening my eyes to something I'm already seeing,
Yeah, it's more doable.
Yeah, it just feels like, but it just was like a slightly different view of it. And then you could take your space and yourself in and just connect a little bit more deeply.
And then you can go from there.
Very easily. You step into it. Yeah.
Well, this is awesome. We have to wrap up now.
Thank you.
So
thank
I just
you
want to
so
say
much.
thank you for coming on the show, and I'm definitely going to be in touch.
Great.
And thank you for joining us tonight. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn, and hope to see you on the next Spiritual Connection. Good night and blessings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, it did. I can chat.
Let's work because, wow.
Yeah. That's good.
Very good.
Perfect.
And right at 7:30 too.
Perfect.
Yay.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is a great opportunity.
So